This is Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and you're listening to the Love, Happiness, and Success Podcast.
Got to find a way if you want to go. Got to find a way if you want to go.
The artist is Brick Fields. The name of the song is Gotta Sing Your Song, which I thought was so perfect for us today because today we are talking about how to find your way with regards to your career. So I wanted to make a podcast on this topic because I'm hearing from so many of my dear listeners. A lot of you out there are feeling really stuck in jobs that you don't totally love, but there's a lot of fear around leaving or making a big change. It can be paralyzing, not even knowing where to begin the process of figuring out what it is that you're really supposed to be doing with your life, and especially if you're fairly well entrenched in a particular career, it can be so difficult to get more education or let go of a paycheck in favor of starting out again in a new place. And this can be really challenging. So we have been having a lot of people come in for career coaching and career counseling here at Growing Self, but I also wanted to make a podcast to support you around change in this area. And I hope that our time together today helps you, if it doesn't solve all your problems through a 45-minute podcast, come on, but it could at least help get you started asking yourself the kinds of questions and figuring out where at least to focus your energy in order to get some answers and get some clarity so that you can move forward fearlessly in your career and create the life that you want. So thank you for being here. And hey, I just mentioned listener questions. If you have a question that you'd like to hear on the podcast, I do hope you get in touch with me. You can track me down at growingself.com. You can also get in touch with me on Instagram. I am a fairly new adopter to Instagram. I cannot even tell you how much I'm loving it. I've been chatting with you guys and feeling just connected with everyone, and it's been so much fun. So if you'd like to connect with me on Instagram, track me down at Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby on Instagram. While you're there, follow Growing Self too, because we have all kinds of interesting stuff coming out at growing_self. Now, to make this an extremely meaningful and valuable show for you today, I have invited my colleague, Tina, on the show with me. Tina has dropped in on this podcast from time to talk about a variety of subjects because she's very helpful to people in a lot of different ways. But one of Tina's specialties is that she's actually a career development specialist. She works with me on the team here at Growing Self, and she works with tons of people around getting clarity around who they are, what they want to do, but also figuring out really how to excel in their chosen professions. So she really has so much to offer on the topic of career. I was so excited to have her back on the show today so that I can be asking her your questions and hopefully giving you some answers. So Tina, it's always so much fun to speak with you. Thank you for being here again today.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa Bobby, for having me. It's wonderful to be back on the show.
It is always such a treat to talk with you, and we're going to have just as much fun today as we always do. And I'm excited to talk with you today about something specific, Tina. I wanted to talk with you because of your expertise in career development and career exploration for all those people out there listening who might really be feeling stuck in a job that they're not in love with and feeling paralyzed. I don't totally know what I want to do with my life. I don't know where this is all going, but I don't know what to do, so I can't make any changes because I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong choice. And so Tina, no pressure or anything, but can you fix that?
No pressure. Well, I'm thinking, do we ever really know what we want to do and who we want to be? I think we do. We know when we're in alignment and we know when we're not. When I was in school, I didn't. And when I had to declare a major in college, I had just chose one. I didn't know. What's so funny is I was a biology major. I wanted to be
We could, instead of sitting here being on this podcast, we could be like a boat somewhere, like looking at a microscope.
Yeah, I ended up minoring in geology because I went on so many field trips because I loved getting away from campus and going to the Ozarks in Arkansas and playing in the creeks and exploring rock formations. And I remember telling my geologist professor, I'm going to be a marine paleontologist one week. And the next week, I'm like, I'm going to be a marine biologist. I'm going to be a surgeon. And they would just roll their eyes. I really didn't have any guidance or any support.
It's always such a leap of faith in some ways. I have a very clear memory of after I enrolled for my master's program in counseling that I was very excited about it. A lot of thinking went into that, and I was pretty sure that I wanted to do counseling. But I just remember having this moment. I think it was probably around the time that I was paying my first tuition bill. It was like, I sure as heck hope that I actually enjoy doing this for a living once I am on the other side of this, because it is such a huge investment in time and energy and money, like developing these skills and abilities for a particular career. And sometimes people arrive in that profession and are like, oh,
Right.
well, crap. I'm not
Yes.
doing this. Yeah,
Right.
that's hard.
There's so many different scenarios. We might be doing what we were told we should do or we think we should do. And that feels good for a while. And then we get further into our career and we realize, why did I become a systems engineer?
Mm-hmm.
I hate this. And then they need to make a big career change. Or maybe there's just so many scenarios. Or we just, like me, happenstance. I have changed my career many times. I don't know if you even know this, Lisa, but after I graduated with my biology degree from a very small school, liberal arts school in Ohio, and I did get to go to Duke for a semester and Bahamas for summer school, which was amazing.
Wow.
For my marine biology interest, I took a job as a fish biologist in Alaska. And I lived remote for 10 years, not the whole time doing fisheries work, but I had a desire to be outside, be in the middle of nowhere, and develop these life skills that I was never going to develop living in suburbia in Ohio. But what I found was I needed to advance in my degree in biology, and that's required me to do a lot of statistics and population dynamics and math, which I didn't care to be. I didn't really want to be a scientist. There was nothing I really wanted to study that in depth. And so I found myself taking care of my body that hurt from hauling equipment and hiking in the backcountry and wading through creeks and carrying guns and building things and all that stuff that went with that.
Guns. Really?
Yes. Crazy. There's bears that eat fish.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I got into like yoga, body work, because I need to take care of my body. And I was so disconnected from my body. And I really like to travel. So I ended up traveling around and studying different types of massage in India and in Thailand, and eventually moved to Boulder and went to structural integration school. And I was a manual therapist, like a kind of a massage therapist, but you're working with the myofascial system, worked in a pain clinic, got curious about how trauma was in the body. And that was the catalyst to go get my master's degree in clinical psychology. And what's so funny is I did not know that the program that I chose, which was in Santa Barbara, California, beautiful, and was very alternative, that it was going to prepare me to get my license in marriage and family therapy. I couldn't see myself as a marriage and family therapist. From being a fish biologist to being a body worker, I don't know, it didn't make sense, but that was the track. And so I followed it because there was a structure, and they ended up doing that, and I enjoyed it. There was parts of it that I enjoyed, and there was parts of it I didn't. But it was, anyway, my point is, it was so happenstance. Nobody was really guiding me and asking me powerful questions. I just said, oh, this is interesting. I think I'll do this next.
Yeah.
I think I'll do this next. Oh, I think I'll do this next.
That's how, as you tell your story, and I think it's what so many people, it's almost like chapters, just like flipping. Like there's one chapter and then you flip over and they're like, okay, now there's this thing. I'm going to try this for a while. And then it's like another chapter. But you said something that is so important. And this is why I wanted to speak with you, is because you said, no one was asking me these really powerful questions to help me figure out, like on a deep level, who I am and what I want and what makes me happy and what is me being the greatest service to people. And happily, your journey took you to this point where, after all of these years of experience, you're a licensed marriage and family therapist. You're also a licensed addictions counselor, which I think is very interesting. And there was like another path that you went through in your career, but then really like settling in this space where you are now around helping people with exactly this, which is figuring out on a very deep level what they are all about. And I just think it's so neat because, in addition to all of the training that you have in this area and all the experience that you have, like, you've lived it. And I think that that gives you like such an awareness of what it actually feels like to be a person who goes in a direction and like learns and grows and then gets to this place where you're like, I don't know if this is really my professional home. So like we obviously hear from clients all the time who come to us for assistance in that space. But could you give voice to what that feels like, to just have that awareness of, I am not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now? Like, how did you know?
Yeah, the common thing that I felt and that I hear with my clients is they feel stuck.
Yeah.
Maybe they've plateaued in their career.
Mhm.
They do not feel satisfied or fulfilled. They want to do something that makes a greater impact in other people's lives or in the world.
Yeah.
They want to design a life that includes their occupation, that supports other areas of their life that they enjoy. Work-life balance comes up a lot,
Yeah.
and figuring out how to do what you love and have financial stability and security. And so there's a stuckness for sure, and there's a fear of change. And so when I talk about career development, it's a personal growth process,
Yeah.
professionally and personally. And so people can come who are, I call career launchers. They're just starting to get out into the workforce. They're just starting to figure out the very first steps of who they want to be, who are they, and what do they want to be.
Mhm.
There's career changers, or the people who are going through a transition. Maybe these are people who've really over-identified with their job
Hmm.
and their job title, and it doesn't align anymore. So they're trying to figure out, who am I? What do I want to do? That's a tough place to be when you've looked back and you have invested so much time and energy and money
Yes.
in a profession. And then there's the career advancers.
Mm.
Those are people who've been very successful, but they feel like they've plateaued and they're wondering, can I advance in the occupation I'm in, or do I need to make a lateral move somehow? What does that even mean? And then there's people who, I don't have a lot of these, but people who are in that big retirement is we're getting older and older. People are starting new careers in their 70s. But I would say the majority of the people I work with are considered like career launchers or career changers, transitioners, or advancers.
Advancers.
They're all about, I want to do something where I feel like I'm growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want to go back to school for 4 years, but maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to assess my strengths and my preferences,
Mm-hmm.
figure out where they fit in that align with my lifestyle. It's really
Yeah.
exciting. I get to be like an investigator.
That's exactly, I think, the value of what it is that you do, is because it's such a gamble in so many ways. Like, it's such a leap of faith to leave a job that maybe you don't love or a career that isn't the whole enchilada, but it's a sure thing and it's paying the bills and it's like known, and taking such a big leap and perhaps investing in education and like trying something else and not really knowing what it's going to be like on the other side. And so I think that's really what you're seeking to do, is helping people get that clarity and as much information as is possible ahead of time, even though, I mean, you never know until you do it what it's going to be like. But I think that's really the value.
There is a process where once someone gets clear on their strengths and their skills and their interests and their values and what motivates them and how they learn and all the things about who they are before what they want to do, and then they start to explore potential different occupations or jobs or career paths, then they go out and they actually interview, they actually shadow, they do something to get a feel for it
Mm-hmm.
rather than taking a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Unless you're someone who takes a leap of faith, which is what I have done a lot of. And I have to say, I don't think I made any mistakes. And that was something that recently I was like, what a relief. Okay. Everything I did may sound really disjointed, but it
No,
all led to the next thing, to the next thing. It served a purpose.
completely.
And I would not be able to hold the space for my clients today the way I do if I didn't do everything that I've done up till today.
Mhm.
And so I love that I get to be investigative with my clients and help guide them in a way that in an area that I didn't have guidance,
Mhm.
and see them light up when
Yeah.
they realize, oh my gosh, I can actually create a life that I want, and I can have a plan, and I can have a plan B, and I can pivot. Sometimes it's not a drastic change, but it can feel like it. That's what a transition feels like when something ends.
Yeah.
We have to really have an end. Maybe we get laid off or we go through a divorce,
Mhm.
and then our financial situation or just things change. And then we're in that free fall. We're in that really uncomfortable place. A lot of people come to me in that place. They don't know what to do. They don't know up from down, right from left. They know there's something ended, but maybe they don't have closure. And then they can't open the next chapter.
Oh.
And so it's amazing when we can actually truly turn the page
Mhm.
and start anew.
Yeah.
But we're bringing all of our life experience with us. We're not ever just starting over,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
that's such a great perspective, because and as you were telling your story, I didn't say this out loud, but I was very much thinking it, that all of these life experiences, that it's like layers of personal development that built one
Yes.
after the other, and that all are very much alive inside of you right now, and they've really built you into the person that you've become. And I think that's a nice message for people listening who might feel like they've wasted their time or they went down a dead end or something, and that's not the truth, that there's really valuable lessons and experiences that grew you and developed you every single step of the way, even if that's not the profession that you're currently doing. Like, it's all so worthwhile. That's an important message, and I'm glad that you're bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's certain things in my 20s that I would have never known until I was in my 40s because it comes with life
It
experience.
does.
And so what I was doing in my 20s was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would have been doing what I'm doing now in my 20s, I don't think I would have had as big of an impact because I would have lacked the life experience.
Mm-hmm.
It would have just been sort of book knowledge.
Yep.
And so I'm really discovering more and more as I help my clients discover that the experiences that we've had totally enrich what we bring to our new role or our role at our work.
Yeah.
You know, I never really realized how rich my time in Alaska was and how that really shaped me as a person and allowed me to take risks and some pretty calculated. I don't know that they even go together, but there was a level of fearlessness,
Mm-hmm.
if you will. And so I would pick up and move to a different town. I would decide, okay, I want to learn this. I'm going to go to Thailand and learn this. There was nothing in my way. I was just like, I'm doing this. And as we get older, we have, I think, more responsibilities and more concerns. It becomes more risky to make a big change.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, we have to get out of our own way. So I don't know, I can really help people see their blind spots there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so cool too when people really start to own their strengths. We
Mhm.
don't really we talk about our weaknesses. What do I need to improve? But what if we didn't have any weaknesses? What if we just had some skills that were underdeveloped because we didn't have the life experience yet to have developed them?
Whoa.
So,
Well, okay. So then what if we go right there? And if I may, can I ask you a question from a listener? Okay, and there's a lot of detail here, so I'm going to try to summarize just for succinctness. This person says, Dr. Lisa, I'm just starting out in my career after college, but I don't feel like I'm on the right path. And I would like to know how to know if you're on the right path and aren't making decisions out of fear. If you had a career coaching client who came to you in that life space, so probably early mid 20s, and really genuinely not feeling confident in the decisions that they're making or the direction that they should be going in, and not that you can certainly solve the world's problems in the context of a podcast, but I'm curious to know what would be some of the things that you would offer them in terms of, okay, so here's some of the things that we can do to help you get that clarity. And so certainly again, not going into the process, but like what kinds of things would you be encouraging them to think
yeah.
about, or the questions that you might be asking?
Yeah, there would definitely be a conversation
Hmm.
where I would explore with them how they got to where they are. Like,
Hmm.
first of all, how did they make the decisions
Hmm.
to be in the position that they're in and do the studies that they've studied?
Yeah.
Because that often leads to all of us as kids had an idea or a dream of some sort, things that we gravitated towards. And I know for me, I was always climbing trees and
Hmm.
very curious, and curiosity is actually one of my character strengths, and I've
Hmm.
always been curious. So to finding out what are their natural character strengths that are alive for them, present in their job, if there are any, because that's usually going to give you energy, natural energy.
Yeah.
Not, then it's usually an interesting story of my grandparents did this, my parents did this,
Hmm.
they wanted me to do this, so here I am doing that. And
Hmm.
having a real open conversation about that process, and then being able to really look at what are their strengths, or I could say also skills that they prefer,
Hmm.
because we can have skills that we don't prefer, but
Yeah.
it's what do
Hmm.
you prefer? And really, what are your interests and what's important to you? What maybe your purpose or your passion, or what are those things that make up who you are? Maybe it comes out of having a conversation about what kind of books they read, or shows they watch, or things that they do for fun. Like, that doesn't have to be separate from career, but just really getting to know them as a whole person to find out their journey. How did they get here? And oftentimes people haven't really thought about that. And so that conversation can be very rich and very insightful for them to go, wow, okay, I can connect some dots here and figure out this is how I got here.
Hmm.
And then, are there things that I actually really enjoy that I just need to get more training on, or find a mentor or someone to guide me? Because we can't master something overnight. And it can be very frustrating to be in the beginning stages of feeling not very competent. And that's where we are in the beginning of any career. We're learning. We don't go from entry level to CEO.
Thank you for saying that, because I know that was very much my experience, even starting out in this profession. And I think that some people worry that because they don't have all of the answers to everything, that there's something wrong. And so I'm glad that you said that out loud. That is actually very normal and expected, that you don't know. And that's okay.
Yes. And when you're in a position where you need guidance, you need good supervisors, you need good mentors,
Hmm.
and not all companies or jobs provide that.
Yeah.
And so recognizing how you ask for support and what support's available. Are you set up to succeed here?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of variables. And I think that in any position you're in, having strong people skills is going to help you advance anywhere, because you can know a task really well, but you have to be able to get along with others. You have to be able to negotiate. You have to be able to communicate your needs. And so those are some skills that, depending on your industry or your occupation, you may not have developed them. or your life experience.
Yeah.
And so that can keep you stuck, and that can make you feel frustrated when you're like, okay, I'm not really happy, but I don't know why. And so I got to figure out why so I can even communicate that and ask for what I need.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this personal discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some people who just say, I don't like this job. I know I don't like this job. I want to find another job. But if, again, they don't know who they are, they can go find another job, but then they're right back to where they were.
Yeah.
It's dating and relationships.
Ooh.
If a relationship doesn't work out, we just go jump into another one.
Yeah.
But we didn't learn about what our requirements, wants, and needs are, or the sort of how we want to feel in that relationship. We can end up going down the wrong track, or maybe not the wrong track, but we get out of alignment, and then life feels draining. We're approaching that burnout. Things that we're doing are not giving us energy. And I was thinking about this, Lisa, and I had a conversation this morning with a client about it. I said, think about it. How many hours do you spend in your bed? If we sleep 8 hours a night, 7 days a week, however many weeks, days out of the year, right? It's like, that's a lot of time. So you better have a good bed to rest in, so that you have quality and quantity sleep, so that you are refreshed and energized and ready to live your life. And the same thing with your profession. If you're working 40 hours a week or more or less, and you don't like your job, that's a lot of time. And then if you're not getting energy from that, then how are you going to live the rest of your life? Trying to recover. So I encourage people to design their career in a way that works for them, where they are almost guaranteed satisfaction. And there's so many assessments and things we can do these days. There was no internet when I was growing up. I don't know where we looked for this information, but
The encyclopedia, Tina,
right?
where we look.
Oh my gosh, there's ways to decide if your level of satisfaction will maybe not be guaranteed, but more likely.
Well, and I love this because this is like a total 180 from what I think a lot of people do, and not by any fault of their own. It's just that there really isn't a ton of support for this very like deep personal growth work, like self-exploration. Who am I? What are my strengths? What are my interests? What am I about? What do I enjoy? What makes me feel happy? What service can I provide to the world? You know what I mean? That's not part of the conversation. It's okay, your grades in science were good, and so do you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, an Indian chief, or do you just want to work at the convenience store next door to your house? It's like whatever is easy is oftentimes what people fall into. It's not this really like conscious, deliberate thing. And what you're advising is really to just go in this process of self-discovery to make it more meaningful. But okay, so then let me ask another question though, and this is from a perspective of a client that I'm thinking of. What if, as is so often the case with, I think especially our clients, we work with people all the time and they are very intelligent and they're good at a lot of different things and they have many strengths and they have many gifts and they could really legitimately go in 6, 7, 8 pretty different directions, and down any one of those paths they could make a life for themselves. Because I think that can almost be paralyzing in its own, especially for people starting out in their lives, is how do I commit to starting down this one path? And a lot of people get hung up on this idea of, I do have a lot of options. How do I select just one? And then it turns into, what if that it's the wrong one? And that is just stops them dead in their tracks. I know that you've had clients
Oh,
that fit
absolutely.
this description. So what would you say to that person who's like,
I would first say, what if it's the wrong one? And I believe it's never the wrong one, but I get it. What if I invest time and energy and money doing this and it doesn't feel right, like I'm not satisfied? You can pivot. Your next decision doesn't need to be, you're not marrying your job.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the final job. And you can always pivot. And what's interesting is some people really enjoy working on more of a longer term vision, and some people have a harder time with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have an idea of longer term vision of where you see your life going, it's easier to course correct
Mm-hmm.
because you have a trajectory, you have an idea of the direction you want to go, the lifestyle that you want to have and create.
Mm-hmm.
And so things are going to attract and gravitate and magnetize towards that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be that far off. But if you're doing something because you're stuck on the amount of money maybe you're going to make, or it's going to allow me to live outdoors and there's only one thing, your needs are going to change over time. So at some point, that's not going to satisfy you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things to consider when you're creating a path forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I try to help people get out of that mindset and help them see that we're going to do enough work that you're not going to make the wrong choice
Mm-hmm.
if you're aware and consciously choosing that choice, even though you have options. Thank God we have options. We don't have options. We're in a state of trauma
Mm-hmm.
and we're frozen. So
Yeah.
it's great to have options.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, did I answer your question? It's because I think I
Yeah.
followed that category. I've done a lot of different things, and I realized that if there's something I really want to do, I can do it. I might not be amazing at it, but I'll be good enough at it. But maybe I need to start to decide, what do I want to master now in my life?
Yeah.
What do I want to really go deep into and stop scratching the surface on? And we hit that place, I think, at different ages.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never been there in my 20s. And I
Oh,
have a client in their 20s who is.
isn't
Times
that
are changing. So
yeah. No, I'm always so impressed. I actually had a conversation earlier today with one of our newer early career counselors here at Growing Self, who's part of our team. And I knew that she was a younger woman, but I didn't realize that she went straight from her undergrad program right into a master's degree and is already like moving towards licensure. And she is in her like mid 20s. And we were actually talking about this, and I was like, that is remarkable. We were talking about how she got clarity that she wanted to be a marriage and family therapist. She knew that by the time that she was 18 years old, and all of her academic work was pointing in that direction. And I wasn't even thinking about going back to graduate school until I was like 27, and it was like, wow, that just fell into place for her. But thinking what you're saying is that for many people, that there almost like needs to be this experimentation, and that the fact is that I could probably have had wonderful careers doing many different things. And that the point is like feeling safe enough to go in the direction that feels like the right thing to do at the time. And either it will work out, and if it doesn't, you can do something different, and it's okay. And you can learn from this experience and have value from that experience and take it and build something else with it.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
can, when we get so attached to the outcome, I think that's where
Yeah.
we get really scared
Mm.
because things don't always unfold
They
the
never
way.
unfold.
So we have to be open to those
Yeah.
opportunities. And it's hard when you're stuck and you're scared and you don't want to change. Anytime you're stuck, whether it's in a relationship and a job, it's where you don't like where you live, something that just doesn't feel right.
Mm.
It's important to get the support you need to figure out a way to unravel that.
Yeah.
Because being stuck, we grow out of those stuck, muddy places. But if you're stuck for too long, I lost myself in the job, I lost myself in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I need to really do some deep digging now to reclaim that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm doing career coaching, people realize I think I really do like my job. I
Mhm.
just I didn't know how to advocate for myself or negotiate and really learn what I need to do to move up in the company. Or maybe there's another role in the company. Oh, wow, this isn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just was really being hard on myself.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden I got a new supervisor and I don't like them and I don't know how to talk to them. There's all kinds of scenarios to help
There
people through.
Definitely are. And I think that now we're getting into that like mid-career work that you do with people where sometimes people do want to pivot or shift into something different. And I think that we can talk about that. But it also seems like in my experience and what I think a lot of people on our team do, similar to you, is that personal development within a career that I think especially for people who are coming to growing self, is so often based in what you're talking about, which is that emotional intelligence piece. Like,
Mm.
how do I talk to coworkers when things maybe aren't feeling so great, or we have to solve problems together, or I'm having a weird reaction to a coworker? Those soft skills, because I think that when people are developing those skills, the job itself, the career itself doesn't matter because it's around being part of a team, having collaborative relationships, learning how to communicate, learning how to manage their own emotions during high
Mm.
stress situations. Can you speak a little bit about some of the work that you do with clients who are looking to develop? There's such an overlap of personal and professional, right? They may come in seeking to improve professionally and as a result often have better relationships with their partners and their children
Yes.
and friends as a result. But where do you go with people who are wanting to develop personally so that they can function at a higher level professionally? I know
Yeah.
it's a big question, but
Yeah. I think it's in the category of probably career advancement.
yeah,
They need to learn they need to improve their people skills, their leadership skills. They might be experts in something, but they're not really sure how to lead.
yeah.
But also, there's an assessment around just having a conversation with someone who's thinking they want to change careers because they're bored for many reasons. It could be the role that they're doing or the environment, the work culture.
Hmm.
Might be the wrong work culture where nobody believes in self-care and everybody doesn't eat lunch, or there's no camaraderie. There's just they're looking for something else.
Yeah.
So it does go back to what do you want and who are you and what would
Mhm.
feel more satisfying and what's within your control to change.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not so much about I need to change my career. I need to go from being an engineer to a botanist. It's looking at your skills and interests and where can they maybe be transferred
Hmm. Yeah.
and exploring that and being open to that, being open to change.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's reassuring.
Yeah. But I can tell you there's a lot of people who feel plateaued or stuck because of the communication piece and the emotional intelligence piece where they're not really sure how to navigate those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And if they felt more confident and in their power, they'd be able to advance quicker. That advance quickly have pretty good people skills.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we don't always learn that in school.
No one
Yeah.
teaches you. Yeah.
So that's a big part of continuing education or continuing your personal professional development.
Hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't that happen in our marriage and family therapy work as well?
For sure.
Relationship skills, people skills.
That's why I think that so many people come to you for this, is because yes, you're a career coach, but okay, so let's put those communication skills out on the table and see. So when you say this, what happens versus when you couch it this way, what happens, and helping people get better results, and that emotional awareness, I think, is really important. Okay, but you're about to say
I
something.
was going to say something that also holistically, someone might come in and be really bored and complaining about work,
Hmm.
but I'm not afraid to ask, how is life at home?
Yeah.
And when they say, oh, not so great, it could be that because they're not feeling like they're getting their needs met at home, their productivity at work's going down.
Mhm.
And so it's being able to look at the whole picture of what needs to change in your life, like where really are the habits that aren't working for you,
Mhm.
and having that holistic approach and really understanding that this is your life and your life is made up of your career, the work that you do, if that's important to you, and your relationships,
Mhm.
and how you're living your life. And so that's again a big part of the work of your career development, your personal development, your professional development. I don't think that we can really compartmentalize them. We can decide to focus on one at a time.
Mm.
We don't want to do it all at once, but they're very interconnected.
Yeah. No, I totally get it, that it's really more of a personal growth, holistic thing, but that career can take the focus sometimes. Okay, and so we've talked about that career advancement or going through that phase of recognition, I think, where, okay, it's not a specific job. Maybe it's something that I need to work on the inside. And I think in my experience, and I think that this has been true for me personally as part of my professional development, I think that part of my career advancement really had to do a lot with not just like emotional aspects or personal growth aspects, but around developing like, this sounds so lame and boring, but like personal productivity strategies. Like, as my life becomes more demanding and there's literally just more responsibility, more stuff, less time, more things that I have to manage. Like even things like time management skills or having systems to stay on top of things and not let stuff fall through the cracks and between work, but also managing stuff at home. And I know that has been a big area of growth for me as my career has increased in terms of the just the demands. And I guess I'm wondering if you have people coming to you. I like this career, I like the general track that I'm going in, but I feel overwhelmed. I feel like there's just so much that I can't handle it all.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's very common. I feel overwhelmed and exhausted.
Mhm.
There's not enough time in the day. I have too many responsibilities, and
Yeah.
it comes back to reestablishing your boundaries and
Mhm.
what if you're going to invest time in this, what maybe do you need to let go? How do you manage your energy?
Mhm.
All that stuff. That's all stuff that's so coachable that
Mhm.
often comes up. So it's always there's an assessment of tell me about what a day is like for you. Having someone
You want me to go now? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, be a bird on your shoulder and get a glimpse of that. It's wow. Sometimes just validating like that is a lot. How
Mhm.
are you managing that? I'm not. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. What are some things that can shift so that you can get out of survival mode and be able to make decisions? Because you can't make a decision when you're that stressed
Yeah.
out. So, like stress management, energy management, time management, I think are things that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people who are success driven,
Mhm.
like yourself and myself, we add more and more to our plate.
Mhm.
And at some point, we can only keep so many plates spinning.
And they
So
start to fall.
those are
Mhm.
conversations that come up a lot, I think, just as a life coach and
Mhm.
as a career coach, and not being able to talk, not being afraid to talk about how our personal and professional life can impact each other
Mhm.
because we're human.
But those are good, and thank you for offering those questions around like what is it looking and where can you start setting boundaries and managing your time and energy differently because this is not working. Yeah, no, to have that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then,
And
oh,
giving people permission that it can change because we can get stuck in this isn't working, and we get so angry and we blame. But it's okay. What is in your control and what's out of your control? Because if you're giving energy to things that are outside of your control, you're going to keep wasting your time and energy because it's an unsolvable problem. So look at what you can control. And often people feel out of control. So they're trying to control, right? That's like coming back to, wow, I can decide. Actually, I can decide what time I go to bed at night. I can. There's some obstacles, but I can. Or what time I get up, or how I'm moving through the day. We don't realize we make decisions every day about what we're going to put on and what we're going to eat.
Mhm.
And so it's coming back to the basics sometimes
Yeah.
of what are my main priorities, my top three. What are the top three stressors?
Mhm.
Are they helping each other? So those are some really important things to talk about that
Mhm.
might seem small, but huge. Can make huge shift. You can make one tiny shift in how you think or what you're doing, and it can make a huge impact.
That's such a good reminder. And I love it again that the focus is on what are you doing externally? Because when we take all that focus off of the career or the annoying boss or the work itself and come back to what am I doing? How am I managing my life and my energy? What's going on in my head throughout the day? You can really have a very different experience. Nothing has changed in terms of the circumstances or the job, but that it feels like a brand new thing because you have changed. And I love it. That's where you're going with people. Now, of course, and I feel like we've leapfrogged over that third situation, whereas sometimes over the course of this personal growth work, people they make those interchanges, but as also part of that self-discovery is really this very clear awareness that this current thing is not in alignment, or maybe, as is often the case, it was in alignment. Like you were talking about, like the Alaska thing, the bodywork thing, at one certain point in your life, I bet that was very much in alignment with who you were and what you wanted. But then you grew and evolved,
Yep.
and then it didn't like the right thing anymore, or even the specialization that you've moved into as a counselor that meant moving away from something else. And so I guess I'm wondering on behalf of, and I do have some specific listener questions that I'm going to throw at you too, but just in general for a person listening, what would you say is the number one clue or top couple of clues that it probably is worth exploring options? And I know it's probably different for different people, but I know that for me personally, like when I think back on times when I was doing something that I really, not that I shouldn't have been, but it wasn't congruent with my life path, that it began to feel very hard, that
Mhm.
things that had worked weren't working. Like there was just this energetic almost wall that it was like it just felt sticky. It felt hard versus when I have been in the place that I'm supposed to be in, there's a certain amount of flow. Not that you don't still have to work at things and put energy into them, but like when you do, they work. Like there's just this sort of like forward momentum. There's like a wind at your back sort of feeling.
Yes.
That is my personal clue that I have learned over the years to pay attention to when I need to pivot, to use your language. What would you say yours are, or what's in your clients?
I think you're right on. I think that there's a lot more complaining,
Yeah.
about things. People are just generally unhappy.
Mm,
They don't like their hours. They don't like the people they work with, or maybe they like the people they work with, but they're bored with the task. They're
mm,
not challenged enough.
mhm.
And it's okay, what is it that you want? People used to ask me this, I think, in interviews. What is it that you really want to do? Oh my gosh. Nobody ever asked me that. No, it's more, what do you need me to be good at? And I'll figure it out. It's like we have to shift our mindset of, well, what is it that feels good when you're in a relationship? How do you want to feel? So I think it can be subtle. All of a sudden you can find yourself getting sick a lot.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah, or you're not finding time to get to the gym, even though that's so important to who
Mm,
you are and what gives you energy and makes you healthy. Maybe you're finding yourself waking up in the middle of the night because you're trying to solve a problem all the time because you don't feel competent in what you're doing. And I'm just thinking back of all my clients and their complaints, which were signs that I need to make a change. Or maybe they're telling me that they're in a really toxic work environment, like a
Oh, yeah.
toxic relationship. And then it's time, if it's toxic and abusive, you need to leave. And you
Mm,
need to come up with a strategy
mhm,
so that you're not, putting yourself in a horrendous situation where you can't pay your bills, but you need to find a strategy to exit. Usually when it's on one hand, it's really weighted down with what's not working.
mhm,
And they're trying really hard to make it work, but something's not quite right.
mhm.
And sometimes it takes another person to help you see that. Hello? Because you're like, no, I'm going to make it work. Failure is not an option. No, I'm going to try to fit the square peg in the round hole.
That's what has messed me up, is that I'm like, no, I want this to work out. And so there are red flags and like sirens going off and things aren't working. I'm like, no, I'm going to make it work. And so I think that sometimes, because when we get so stuck on a certain idea, being able to come to terms with, no, I just really need to let this go. That can be a life lesson in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making a career change can be very exciting
Mhm.
when you have a process in place to figure out how to get clear and what next steps you have to take. And that can be daunting, realizing, oh my God, something's got to change, but I don't know what. I never really had guidance in my career. I've just fallen into what I've been doing.
Mhm.
It's they don't know where to look. And so that's what I love about helping people get that clarity and get some traction and get some momentum and realize that they are in the driver's seat
Totally.
and that nothing was wasted.
Nothing.
It's not wasted. That was a huge revelation for me not that long ago because I have done a lot of things and I've spent a lot of time and energy and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm right where I need to be. And thank goodness right now in my life everything's in the flow and clicking because that's a wonderful place to be.
Oh, yes.
It's a wonderful place to be. And if we've never been there, we don't know that. I've struggled for years doing what I think I should do.
Yeah.
My supervisor said, get your license as addictions counselor. Get as many letters. Okay, I'll try this. I got offered a position working at adolescent substance abuse, working with that. I didn't like it. I
Mhm.
tried it. I wouldn't know. I didn't know. I thought this is cool. Try this.
Yeah.
I'll try it. I'll
And I
see.
bet you were good at it. Like, I bet if I was a fly on the wall watching you, I'm sure that you were very effective and very helpful to many people. But on the inside, you were like, no, this is not my place.
Yeah. And the biggest factor for me is an energy thing. It drained me. I would go home at night and I wouldn't have any energy for the rest of my day or things that were interesting to me. And I think that's one of the signs. What gives you energy? What drains you? Be conscious of that
Mhm.
because we want to choose things that lift us up. And you're going to be tired at the end of the day if you're working hard and doing what you love, but you're not going to be drained. You're not going to be moving into burnout.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if you move into burnout, then because of the industry you're in, because it's got high burnout, then you just need to reassess and make it. You can figure out how to make it work for you, possibly. So it's so individual, but it's a wonderful thing to be open. I think the clients that come to Growing Self are so open to looking at their lives and figuring out how can I grow, how can I make a change. They're ready, they're willing, and they're able, and that's a wonderful client to work with.
Oh, no. And you know, the neat thing, I learned so much from my clients. I just met with a client last week and she's, Lisa, thank you. I've gotten so much out of this. And I honestly, like, this woman is such a delight. And she'll say things. I'm like, that's a really good idea. And it's very much like a collaborative thing. But hey, and I know that we're almost out of time and that we have to end, but I would love to sneak in one more listener question. This is a pretty short one. Is this okay? Somebody wrote in and said, Lisa, it's always helpful to hear tips about getting motivated for change or taking that leap. But what do you do when all you can think about is money and that I need to make X amount of money to live? And the person writes, I'm feeling really stuck at my job right now. And I think that's what it is, that I'm hung up about money. Do you have any parting
Mm.
words for someone where that is the sticking point?
Hmm.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, yeah. I think that money can be a motivator for a lot of people. I'm
Mm.
trying to think of some clients where when I've had conversations about that, usually that's not really the main motivator.
I wanted to throw it
Fear.
to you because honestly, I am not particularly motivated by money either. We need enough to survive, but it's not like the end all be all for me. So I was wondering if, as a career coach, you had any insight on how to get somebody unstuck from almost like that fear based.
Yeah, I think that it's important to be able to acknowledge and identify what your biggest fears are. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's the fact that they're afraid they're going to run out of money, or maybe it's more about the debt that they want to pay down. There's some sort of goal around money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when it's framed as a goal and that goal it can be achievable by looking at how to make small wins, there is less of a fear of grip around it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
it
can
provides,
unlock your golden handcuffs if there's like a destination.
yeah.
Mm.
So we look at possibilities. What are the possibilities? We brainstorm ways to make more money or to save money.
Mhm.
But it can be challenging because some of us can have old patterns around money that it takes a while to loosen that grip.
Yeah.
But some people are motivated by money. Some people who probably don't find themselves in my office all the time are focused on, I want to make as much money as possible. And that might mean that I live alone and I live in a certain way, in a certain place, and I don't have certain things, and that's my choice. And at some point they might say, okay, I'm not happy. I want to change this, but I still want to make money. So I don't know if I'm going on a tangent, but usually it's a fear of, I need to have this because if I don't, what's going to happen? It's some sort of identification with it. And I think as we start to unpack that a little bit and look at more possibilities, it becomes less of a driver. It's not that it's not important, but it's less of a driver.
Mhm. No, I get this. And just as we're talking, I think the listener who wrote in probably intended for it to be a more simple question than it actually is in reality, because money is such a symbol for so many different things that goes so deeply into the psyche, and that there are so many different things attached to it, like early life experiences, family messages, your financial circumstances, also the behaviors, your life goals, your expectations, values. And so what you're saying, again, I think brings us full circle to what we've been talking about this whole time together, which is really, this is about a personal growth process where you really dive in and spend time unwinding and unpacking and discovering and confronting old beliefs and perhaps releasing some of them, and really redesigning your life in a way that is congruent with your ultimate vision. And so I think the answer then for this person is an invitation to enter a process, as opposed to a simplistic answer that is not.
Yeah. And understanding your
Mhm.
external motivators and then what are your aspirations?
Yeah.
They need to match up, because if you don't know what your aspirations are or what inspires you, it's hard to get up and make that money some days.
Mm-hmm.
You want to
Yeah.
know what gets you up in the morning. Why
Yeah.
are you here? And the money comes.
It does. So much here. I wish we had more time, Tina, but this has been so wonderful talking with you. I hope we can do this again sometime soon. I always love it so much when we get to talk together.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Thank you so much for making the time in your busy day to have a great conversation.
My dear listeners, if you have follow-up questions for Tina or myself, I hope you submit them. You can track us down at growingself.com, or you can get in touch with me on Instagram at Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby. And I also want to let you know that we have a lot more going on at Growing Self than just this podcast. Cruise over to the blog at growingself.com. We have some recent articles there about topics as diverse as parenting tips, how to develop self-esteem. We have a couple of wonderful online quizzes to help you get clarity about your relationship. We also have a new quiz to help you determine if therapy or life coaching is the best path for you. And we also have some general advice to help inspire change, improve your communication skills, so much for you at growingself.com. Check those out, and I will be back in touch with you very soon for another episode of the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. Thanks for listening.
Got to sing your soul if you want to know. Gotta sing your soul if you want to know. You know you gotta let go if you want your own. Got to let it go if you wanna fly.